It's here, it's big. We are at a major turning point. I know we get a lot of people who pop on the channel, pop up in the comment section and say, nothing's going to happen. Nothing has happened recently. Everything's good. Everything's going to be shiny. And yet, we see that the collapse of Western civilization, particularly the United States, is in itself inevitable. And we have a number of reasons why we can point this out, but just think of this. If you were hiring someone right now, for those of you who have experience hiring people, would you hire someone who is, in their late 50s, early 60s, or would you hire somebody who is in their 20s? Is there a difference out there in the work ethic? Is there a difference that you've perceived in their values? Is it becoming harder to find people who will just show up and work? And the answer is yes. Absolutely yes. It is fundamental to our civilization that we are replacing baby boomers with Gen Zers. That's what's happening right now. And the quality of workers out there, the quantity of workers out there is not the same. And this is leading to a fundamental shift. You can talk about financial whatever mumbo jumbo you want. We can talk about all sorts of different statistics. We can talk about philosophy. But what you cannot deny is demographics. There's just less workers coming in Gen Z than there are workers going out of the baby boomers. Now, we've had a lot of the baby boomers that have just stuck around, partially because they realize that the places that they work, that if they leave, the places could just very well collapse. I know a number of people who have stayed on beyond what they would normally think about. I mean, they wanted to retire, but the problem is that they're just irreplaceable. And so they keep getting begged to stay. They're getting asked by people to help them with this project or that project when they don't really want to work anymore, but they feel needed, and so they stay on. We're replacing the baby boomer just show up and do your job with drama and personal fulfillment and touchy-feely stuff and entry-level workers who want to talk to CEOs. They want to tweet at the CEO. They want to tell everyone how everything should be done. Now, I understand a fair bit of that's just young people being young people. But the simple fact is that what has kept us going so long here in the United States has been the willingness of baby boomers to work later into their years than what we've seen previous generations do. Previous generations have hit 65 and just said, see ya. But what we're seeing with a lot of baby boomers is they're working into their late 60s. They're working into their 70s. Partially that's because longer lifespan. Part of that is just how they are. Now, I know a lot of you out there are silver-haired baby boomers, and you are part of that generation. And a lot of you are past 65 and still working. I mean, with Social Security, theoretically, you can retire, 62? And start getting Social Security? Theoretically, at least. And all this is just pointing to the fact that when you look at different industries, you're seeing the same thing happening. Healthcare. With the whole cough thing, a lot of older folks who are still working in the nursing and doctors and in the medical field who are still hanging around, even though they could retire or they could leave, they were still sticking around because they felt needed and or whatever reasons, or they just wanted some more money banked up, whatever. During that whole crisis, a whole bunch of people are like, enough of this, we're done. And with some of these critical fields, we also see Gen Xers and millennials bailing on these careers. So they went to school to be a doctor, went to school to be a nurse, and then they saw all that was going on in the medical field, and they're like, you know what? I've decided to become a financial planner. I've decided to start selling insurance. I'm doing anything other than working in that hospital because it's just insane. And we're seeing nurses quitting their jobs so that they can become traveling nurses and get paid a whole heck of a lot more money to do basically the same thing, but have to do it at some different location. We see throughout the healthcare system this phasing out of a generation that by and large shows up and just works. And it's being replaced by a generation that has a little more drama, a little more desires for self-actualization and personal fulfillment. I don't know. Most of the baby boomers that I know, if you start talking to them about, do you get personal fulfillment out of your job, and, how self-actualized do you feel at your job? Most of that is, well, it'd be nice if that happens, and maybe in some small regards that happens, but generally speaking, it's work. It's a job. It's not really meant to do that. You work hard, and your self-actualization is when you get your paycheck, right? Then you can live your life. You can do the things that you want to do once you get that paycheck. But that's not what's happening at the other end of the spectrum. We have an increasingly flaky, and this is generalizations. We all know people in the baby boomer generation that are flaky, and we all know people, hopefully you know people in the 20s range that are actually quite competent and quite driven, and there's great folks, and so we're generalizing here. But the generalization, I believe, is true, is that the Gen Zers who use Common Core math coming into the workplace can't figure out basic problems, have to be told everything. They have to have their hand held through every step of the way. Now, in some ways, that's a little bit of a relief from previous generations that are like, nah, I got it. I'll just go figure it out myself. And then they do it wrong. And so that can be a that can be a fault in of itself. But we're seeing what's happening to these businesses, what's happening to the power grid. You got a lot of people who have stuck around for a very long time, who understand how to make 1970s and 1980s equipment work. And a lot of people that are coming out of the colleges, I mean, they're not going into blue-collar jobs. We see that. Try to find a plumber these days. You're paying through the nose. If you try to get an HVAC person during this winter storm, that's just downright impossible. But you see it with all the trades. And the blue-collar workers, it's very difficult to find people to do those jobs because everybody wants to be a social media influencer. I know, that's funny, coming from a social media influencer. But the truth is that our society as a whole is imploding. So everyone is like, oh, everything will be fine. The central bank will print more money and this will happen and the government will come save us. And they can't save us from demographics. There are less plumbers today than there were yesterday in the United States. There are less, go down a whole litany of things. There are less nurses today than there were yesterday. As we go through, we're seeing that factories are not able to function anymore because electricians that have been keeping those machines running for the past 30 years are just done and they're walking out. And the new generation, they've learned CNC machines, they've learned new technologies, but a lot of the factories use old school hydraulics and all sorts of technology that was, cobbled together back in the 80s or the 90s. A lot of heavy industrial equipment doesn't get replaced. It just gets repaired and fixed up and then continue to be used. How warehouses and factories often function. Now you get the new factories, and that's cool and everything. This spitting new factories with new machineries and stuff like that, especially in the food industry. But a lot of manufacturing, steel mills and all that kind of stuff like that, you continue using the technology that exists, and you keep you find a way to make it continue to work, right? But then you enter a new generation with that, and it just, they don't even know what to do, how to function with that. Logistics. People who have been running logistics for 30 or 40 years, keeping supply chains moving, keeping products where it needs to go, these people are quitting. They're done. Especially with the chaos that have been supply chains in the last couple of years. A bunch of them stayed on for a couple of years to help through the cough situation and some of that craziness. But they're done now. They're gone. They're leaving. And we're seeing this chaos is coming up within every business, every industry. I hear it from business person after business person after business person. I can't hire anyone. I've tried. I can't find anyone who's qualified. I can't find anyone who will learn. And these businesses are shutting down. The idea of showing up to work and doing your job is dying. We have a moral shift in the United States to people showing up to work and saying, I deserve. I am equal, or who don't understand basic structure of how businesses work. Because they didn't work when they were in high school. They didn't work when they were in college. And they think that the way that they interacted with their college professors is how they should be able to interact with their CEO at a new company. They don't understand how basic things work because they're entitled to things, and they see pictures of on media and TV of how things should work, and it's just not the way the world works, is it? It's not the way the world has worked, and it's not the way that things will continue to function, because they've been implanted with all these stupid ideas. I threw out Common Core math before, and Common Core math slows everything down. It's less efficient, fundamentally less efficient, and makes everything more complicated. And it doesn't connect with older generations. If you're trying to walk through math problems, basic math problems, and the older generation can't even understand a word you're saying, even if your system works, it's just going to cause confusion and chaos inside businesses. And go anywhere. Show me businesses, show me an industry where it's not chaos. We cover a lot of Walmart and grocery stores and Aldi and these other stores, and we're seeing increasing chaos. And part of that's showing us what the supply chain is looking like. Chaos. Our military. I mean, we're seeing one boondoggle after the next. The LCS ships, they just don't work. They designed a new ship and they produced a whole bunch of them, but they can't leave U.S. coastal waters because they keep breaking down. When you spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a program, or tens of billions of dollars at the very least, on a program of ships, and you can't even get the engines to work, that's problematic. We're trying to get back to the moon. And the fact is that today we are trying to redo what they did in the 60s. And we're struggling. If you would take Elon Musk and SpaceX off the table, we'd be in a run for our money as to whether we can even replicate what they did in the 60s today. If that doesn't speak to the degradation and the increasing chaos of of our society. I don't know what else does. The fact is that we can't do what we could do in the 60s. Does that kind of blow your mind? With the internet, with all these new tools, all this new science at our fingertips, we can't accomplish what we could back in the 60s. And that's scary. That we're moving into a situation as a society where we're in decline. Every way that you can measure it, we are in decline. I saw a graph recently where it showed that housing prices have gone up, continue to go up, right? And everyone's like, I'm getting richer because my house is more expensive. But when they showed that graph of the hockey stick of housing prices going up, real estate prices going up, but then it's compared housing, average housing in gold has been flat since the 60s. That's kind of eye-opening. If you buy a house with gold, it is like the same price as if you were buying an average house in the 60s. Now, houses have gotten bigger. You know, you can get more house for your gold today. But the simple fact is that housing and real estate has not gone up nearly as much as you think it has. Just the value of your dollar has dropped more than you think it has. The stock market doesn't keep going up so much as your dollar keeps going down. They are putting whitewash on the wall, but it is over rotting wood. The fence must come down. It will fall down sooner or later. And we are at that point. We're at this turning point where everything is changing around us. And those who don't see it, those who refuse to see it, are going to pay much higher consequences than those who see it and take steps to prepare and protect themselves. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us. Pop your thoughts down in the comments down below. But if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.